Nick, the very first car that I had to do some replacement work on, right? You've damaged a car, right?
Yeah.
Damaging a car when you're detailing for me, the first was trim. I
Oh,
damaged
yeah.
some trim.
Yeah. Burn
Trim,
it with a rotary is pretty easy.
yep. But we've also all seen trim that's not burned with a rotor. We've seen trim that's just damaged. How
Yeah.
does trim get damaged? It's sun, it's oxidation. Listen, we're excited to announce we have the launch of a new, well, it's not just a product, is it, Nick? We got a system for trim.
Yeah. No, this was, everybody always asks us, when's this next coating coming? When you guys going to do one of these? Trim was probably the number one request we got. Wouldn't you agree? It's like, hey, when you guys going to have a trim coating? The problem is, and I should say, the good thing is that the way we operate inside hyperclean to show people kind of the inside track of how we speak is, are we actually going to be fixing a problem? Like, just having another trim coating on the market, which you see all the time, that doesn't really fix anything. And so I've told you, kind of how I felt about this. I don't know, since we started talking about trim coating probably 4 years ago. And I said, the problem isn't finding a good trim coating, right? I mean, that's part of the problem, but the problem really has settled into, how do you prep the trim? Because we see this a lot when people go to dye trim, right? So guys are going to we're talking about full on restoration. And let's be clear when we say something here, Marty. Trim dye and trim coating, I know we've kind of mixed those two things a little bit in the consumer market. Very, very different things. Okay. One is a full on restoration project, the other is a protection project, right? I want to protect my trim. So, but both have the same flaw in their systems. How are you supposed to prep it? And you
We
see a lot of bad dye jobs because people don't prep it properly.
Well, we've all said, I mean, every one of us have said when you apply ceramic coating, the key, right? The key to a good ceramic coating is underscore. What is that? Fill in the
Well,
blank. What is it?
prep.
Is prep.
And
We
we've
always have
had
said that. And
we've
so
had
now
no
we're watching all
conversations.
this trim over the years and and we've thought we've been working, we thought we've been putting on, but has it always been the biggest problem with trim, no matter what any of us have done? It really has come down to the prep. And we go, no, man, I prepped that. I sprayed, and they're going to fill in the blank, right?
Yep.
Well, I sprayed, was it strong blank, whatever, right?
Yeah.
Or a lot of us would go, no, I did really safe. I used my APC.
Yeah, you and I talk about APC quite a bit. For some reason, APC's got this like magic halo around it that it just works on everything. It's like, well, it's an all-purpose cleaner. Just throw it on that. It's like, what? I don't know, man. There's a lot of things with an APC that it doesn't play well with. There's a lot of guys using APC on carpets that you and I would go, yeah, stop doing that. Okay. There's a lot of guys using APCs on modern plastics on the interior, and you and I would go, kind of unnecessary. Okay. You and I would also say, we haven't been the biggest fan that APC is actually formulated really well for the exterior of the car. And it doesn't matter if we're talking about wheel wells, if we're talking about the bottom of the car, we just have better alternatives that handle the things that might be, funking up your car on the exterior. There's just better alternatives, such
You,
like TRX.
and you use the word there, formulated, right? That's kind of the key word, because we'd even say, could you use TRX, right? Tire rubber exterior. You could use that to clean. In the past, we have said that, but formulated specifically to clean trim, you get to another level beyond just a good cleaner, right?
Yep.
And our trim cleaners, what you would, I think you defined it in the YouTube video, which everybody should go over. You want more information, the in-depth look
Yeah,
at.
that guys, the YouTube video is literally just how to use it. I mean, it is no frills. I'm taking you through it. It was purposely shot on a 22-year-old vehicle. Like we did everything purposely in that footage to be like, there really is no question how to use the system.
Yeah, so that's where you got to go if you really want the in-depth look at it. But just topical, right here,
Yeah.
when you're talking about it, we know that we formulated this differently. We
Yep.
did. We did it specifically to trim, to plastics, to the molding, to anything like that. And so
Yep.
you can go over and watch it. And guys, as he's cleaning, you'll just see, and people might go, well, yeah, I mean, you got a dirty car, you can rub the plastics and get a towel dirty, Nick.
Sure, you can. You can. There's no doubt about that. But the problem, you're always trying, if you're doing things the right way, whether you're detailing your own car, detailing professionally, or you're doing what we're doing on the chemical side, is you go, can we actually solve a problem? Can I solve a problem for XYZ customer? And here's the thing. There's going to be a lot of people that go, where's all the foam? I want my trim cleaner to foam up. No, you don't. You got to realize you're talking about an insanely porous surface that you want the cleanest way of not leaving anything behind. You
Right.
do
And
not want suds and things penetrating the trim. What you want is you want to penetrate the trim and you want the stuff to immediately come out. You don't want it just sticking around.
so I was just kind of making a joke going, hey, you previously actually had cleansed and washed the vehicle, right?
Yes, yeah, yeah, I have.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
it
wasn't
was
just a dirty car that you were wiping with the
yeah,
cleaner.
but you
No,
know how
this had
people
been
are. Yeah, yeah. People
a
do say crazy stuff
previously
like that.
washed, fully detailed car, and
Yes.
here you are now using the trim cleaner to get even more off
Yes.
of it. And that's
Yeah.
why you're talking about the special formulation in it.
And what people will probably have, there'll be certain instances, especially on like you had this happen kind of on your Jeep during testing, that the plastics get to a point you're like, I don't even really need to coat this. I kind of like how it looks just
Yeah,
cleaned up,
yeah, true.
right?
Mhm.
So when I say this is a cleaner, guys, it means like, hey, if you're looking at a vehicle, I'm gonna try to pull my neighbor's Bronco in here because there's a lot of plastic on it. It's a newer Bronco. And I'll tell you this right now, like there's going to be a high likelihood that if he doesn't want me to protect it with a ceramic coating, just cleaning up the trim will make the trim look 1,000 times better. Did you get a reconnect? Can you see me?
Oh, there we go. I was just about to text you.
Yeah, yeah, I saw it. I saw
Yeah.
it going off. Let me mark the clip there.
I did update mine and did
Yeah,
I
so
did
mine
that
went
whole
to
the
yeah,
whole
so
Apple update too.
when we're talking about, something like cleaning up a Bronco like my neighbor has, there's going to be a high likelihood, Marty, that when I clean up his trim, he's going to look at it and go, did you already lay the coating? It's like, well, no, it's just cleaned up trim. And so one of these things that we have to kind of look at in all of this is that you're talking about two separate products that can be used on their own technically. But if you're ever going to lay trim coating, I wouldn't lay trim coating without trim cleaner. You can technically use them for other things. You guys are going to find other uses. We're detail type guys. You're going to find other stuff you like to use it on, right? You had an incident with your black wheels that we talked about where you're like, hey, these are kind of looking worse for the wear. Let me go ahead and spray and kind of get some elbow grease in here. And you're like, damn, so you guys are going to find other uses, but I would not lay trim coating without trim cleaner. And I think the YouTube video shows why. To get trim coating to lay as evenly and as flat as I did and tried to show at times on camera on a 22-year-old mud flap on really small trim around the windows, as flat as that laid, Marty, you've laid a bunch of coating on trim. It's pretty rare to see it lay so flat and so evenly with just a swipe of an applicator.
And that's going to be because it's properly cleaned, right? Doesn't have any of the others. Some parts of the plastic, as we've talked about, we all know, very porous, right? Nick's preached it. We've all preached it. It's porous. So if key is the prep, once we are done prepping, we should then see finally now that coating lay over just as we would on paint, right? That fully clean,
Yep.
fully prepped paint. Now we can visually see it with trim. It is super cool. I'm glad you mentioned that.
So if you guys look at the YouTube video, if you look at when I'm really talking on the driver's side, one of the things you'll pick up on is I tried to do a 50-50 shot, but it was hard to do because you're trying to clean and, I didn't want to put tape on the trim and all that kind of stuff. But one of the things that's interesting about that, guys, is you'll see where sometimes there'll be a little bit more shine or sheen to parts of the area while you're cleaning it. And what's telling you is you'll look at it and go, "Oh, did I do something wrong?" No, it removed oxidation from that area. So when you go lay trim, it'll lay perfectly flat because it's almost kind of lightly restored those areas that it got really deep in there and you worked it a little better. This is on completely worn trim, guys. This is not going to happen most times on new Broncos or new Jeeps or new Porsches or anything like that. But if you take away from the video, I try to do my best to explain when you see the prep and then you think about the prep you've been doing, you're like, "Oh, yeah, there's a difference."
It does seem to happen that way, right? Like, you've talked about which I think when we think of trim, we think of like faded, any of it. We think old vehicle, right? That's just naturally what we go to. We think, this old vehicle that needs to be, and here's that word, restored.
Yes.
So would we say that we are restoring this old vehicle for using trim cleaner and then the trim coating?
Yeah, so one of the things that I think people have to draw a dividing line on, and I think you would probably agree with this, is that you really need to understand which trim needs to be dyed and which trim needs to be coated if you're working on old trim. Because like if you look at the cowling of the vehicle in the video, guys, ceramic coating and trim cleaner aren't going to solve those problems. Okay. I would love to tell you that it's going to. Other companies try to tell you it's going to. And here's the problem with that: we are seeing a lot of comments about certain consumer brands of ceramic coating companies that are sold at Walmart, or maybe they sent you some as a professional in the mail. You know which one we're talking about, but there's multiple of them. And people use their trim restorer that's ceramic, and then it wears off, and then they can't fix their trim because guess why? There's coating in that trim. So now it's white forever. Okay. So you got to be, if you have, think about back to like the Honda Element with all the plastic or the Chevy Avalanche. Okay.
Mhm.
Guys, you walk up on that and it's white, it needs to be redyed. Don't stick anybody's trim coating on it without redying it. Don't stick dressing on it and think that you're redying it. Okay. The problem that people have sold you in the market is that you're going to walk up with this bottle of coating, you're going to stick it on these plastics, and all is going to be good. I've seen really, really dead plastic, like we're talking about. Somebody put ceramic on it. It looked good for 5 minutes. Like 2 weeks later, they come to me. We can't get the dye to stick.
Mm.
It's all new plastic coming to that person. There's no fixing it. So, new vehicles, the situation I was in with my Lexus, guys, I don't want to scare anybody off, but part of these conversations is someone going to be honest with you as a manufacturer and go, there's limitations to ceramic coating your trim. New trim, there's no limitations, right? Just prep it, coat it, move on with your life. You guys get into these projects where there needs to be restoration, like the cowling of the video of the car in the video that I did, that I'm sitting here looking at in in the back of my shop here. I'm telling you, if I'd have put coating on that cowling, there's no fixing it. So that needs to be pulled off. It needs to be re-dyed, resprayed, whatever words you want to use. Then I need to go in when it's all dried and set up, light trim cleaner, trim coating, and guess what? It'll last for years.
Huh. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. If it's too far gone, we should let it be too far gone and
And fix
completely
it properly.
repaint it and
And
and,
fix it
and
properly. Like
fix it the right way.
re-dye the trim. The
Yeah.
dye is gone. There is no, so like you're seeing a lot of consumers being led to believe I'm going to take this wipe, I'm going to put it on a piece of plastic that's completely white. It'll look black for a week. Then they'll go, it came back. Now it's not fixable because you have ceramic in there and nothing will stick to it. Nothing will allow it to be redyed.
They're probably having that same feeling if they were, 20 years ago seeing Armor All and the junkyard and this magic wipe that they could do, and
Yep.
suddenly the car turns back to brand new. You're like, wow, social media today, you're not allowed to get away with that too long. There's going to be
No,
enough people that start to push back.
but I'll tell
You're
you what,
right.
I mean, look how long the headlight stuff has lasted.
Hmm.
Where somebody's like, "Hey, just take this wipe and wipe it on your headlight that's completely fried." And people believe it, right?
For a
And
little
then
bit.
they end up in a worse position most times. And so again, guys, you're coating a lot of new cars, trim. You don't have a bunch of worry. Clean the trim up. And I will say this, I find it works better to just spray it on a towel rather than the surface. I showed both ways. I kind of like just soaking my towel down. The cleaner works better that way, in my opinion. Doesn't hurt anything if you spray it on there, which is why I showed it. I don't want anybody to think that. I just tend to take don't take a high pile towel, guys. Get a nice low pile like our workaholic, and use some pressure if you need to clean the trim. I mean, if the car's beat up and it's older, or if it's new and you go, hey, this trim kind of, hey, use a little pressure.
So how do that's what I was going to give the next question. I was going to go, how do I, let's say I'm a guy that's a professional and I'm professionally cleaning cars, or we got another category, which we always talk about. I'm somebody that cares for my car. I really
Yep.
do appreciate it. I had the great opportunity this past weekend to be in Kansas City and at one of our distributors, KC Auto Care, and met a guy named Doug who's a part of the Porsche Club there, right? So we talked about his Porsche and the way he cares for it, and this next one he got, right? Like
Yep.
that's the way it goes. And you go, okay, well, what level or many years do I go, hey, this car is X many years? Uh, okay, it needs how much, right? How do I know how much restoration, quote unquote, that I need to put into? How much cleaner do I spray? How much coating do I put on, right? That's always the question. How do I know if I need to do this on this car? It's not 20 years old. It's only a couple years old. So, I mean, do I need
Yeah,
to
I
do
mean,
it?
look, trim oxidizes, right, very quickly, and we have all kinds of different levels of quality trim and where they stand on the quality scale. But I would say if you're going to coat your trim, you always need to clean it. Okay, so that's non-negotiable. I don't care how new, I don't care how old. Uh, if you have severely damaged trim that's UV damaged, and you look at it and you go, "Man, I'm seeing a lot of chalky white stuff," you're in restoration territory. Don't put anybody's coating on that. Restore it first, then coat it. But I think here's the deal: you can never use too much cleaner, so don't worry about that. And it's very rare that anybody from a pro to a do it yourself guy ever uses too much coating. That's almost one of the things we never have to go, hey, did you use too much? We just don't, and trim's the same way. Lay trim on thick, because if you look at our video, I did the running boards on purpose first. Those running boards had to be done multiple times because right when I started to lay the trim, I could see it soak up. I once I laid the coating, I'm like, I can see that this thing needed nourishment, right? Like this had been beat up. It was where people were stepping. It's the lower part of the vehicle. I purposely started there so people would understand. I got no problem, man. Put a bunch on there, go over it again. Let it soak in. I never leveled that running board. I never leveled that trim coating off that running board. I did level the sort of harder plastics up around the doors and the windows and the glass and all that kind of stuff. So you got to understand, every one of you knows intuitively what to do. The one thing you cannot do is panic with trim coating and put yourself in a position where you put it on, you see it kind of working, and you're like, let me wipe it off real fast. Don't do that. Okay. The cool thing that I got to show on video that I think we did capture with the light, you'll actually see this coating sweat on certain plastics, more porous plastics like your Jeep, fender, that's not going to really sweat because that's so porous. Harder plastics, you will be able to see it. You can see it on the mud flap, you can see it around the windows, but on the running board, it's not going to sweat. It's just going to soak in.
Listen,
So,
check out your boy Nick on that mud flap down on the ground doing the
well,
video and
here's the deal.
everything. It's great.
So, I want to tell people this, or I say it in the video, I think, and I don't know if they cut it out. I had my car on a lift, and I didn't want to put it up in the lift and have somebody go, "Well, I don't have a lift at my house. I can't do." I didn't want to do that. So all the stuff I have like a nice lift here. So I was thinking, let me put this thing up in the air. So I get it up in the air, I get the camera set up, and I'm like, oh no,
Yeah.
I can just hear
Somebody's gonna
somebody
say,
now.
like,
Like, I
"Who's the
don't have a
hardo of the
lift.
week now?"
Yeah. And I'm like, is it valid? No, but I won't bake it, so I just lowered it back down and I'm like, here we go. This is just so everybody knows you can do this at your house, at your shop if you don't have a perfect lift. And so eh, at the end of the day, the one thing I would say is don't wipe too quickly. Okay. I've told you about that for years on this podcast. It is the facts of the case. Do not panic on trim. And I'll always put people at ease. Trim pieces are usually pretty cheap to buy. Okay. So even if you feel like you can mess something up, realize that most trim pieces are pretty affordable.
What would we mess up?
Yeah, you're not going to mess anything up. I mean, I just want to put people's mind at ease. There's nothing that can happen, but there's a lot of people that stop themselves from doing stuff because they feel like something might happen. It's not going to happen. Okay. But if it did, with anybody's coating, trim pieces are pretty affordable. Okay. It's not on most cars, by the way. I mean, lots of cars and expensive cars, even at that sometimes. So, if you're working on your F 150, man, go out there, put some trim cleaner down, scrub it a little bit if it's been beat up, really put some weight behind it and go, okay, I'm trying to clean this trim up. Then lay on a nice thick layer of trim coating and watch what happens. Just watch what happens. Sometimes you're going to look at it and you're going to go, this looks great. I don't want to put a towel on it. So guess what? Don't. Like there's plenty of times I coat cars and I go, this trim's perfect. Like I'm laying it down, it's reacting perfectly. I go coat all the trim, I go back around, I never put a towel on it. I go, this looks great just how it laid down. There's other times I go, this needs a little wipe. Sometimes I go back, 30 minutes later and wipe the trim and just level it out. Because guess what, man? You're talking about something. Don't think of this as paint. That's the first key to understanding how to coat trim. And I think a lot of guys don't switch off that paint coating into that you're coating something vastly different than glass or paint.
So it's vastly different, but we'll still get the same question. We'll get it. How long does it last? And this
Yeah.
we're gonna say the same as we'd say my buddy who messaged me and said, "Hey man, I sprayed some stack on my wheels. How long will it last?" Okay, I get it. Stack on wheels is different than we say trim ceramic coating. You got to tell me how long it lasts. Do I?
Yep.
Do I have to? I
Well,
mean, should
let's
you
say
wash it with ceramic snow? Should you continue to protect it and maintain it like you would a ceramic coating on paint?
yes.
Yes. Yes, you
Yeah.
should.
Take slick, put it on your trim. Here's what I would tell you guys that we've tested it up to 2 years. It could last. Here's what I'm going to tell you. I don't know what you're doing to your car, the weather your car's in, how long it stays dirty. And trim is sort of to me like glass, where I go, I just know when it needs to be recoated. Right.
We,
And
we got
and
testers.
again,
We got testers trying to get us to, hey man, can I put this video out to let people see? Like, hey,
yeah.
I'm this far. We're like, no, 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 easy there,
Yeah,
easy
yeah.
there.
And here's the thing. We're probably going to have somebody post in the group that's had it on there quite some time and it's perfect. And it's not the highest quality trim in the marketplace. It's a fantastic evidence of guys, the lab test stuff is easy, right? You and I need to say this as many times as possible. It is easy to make products look great in a lab. It's much different to get testers, for you to test it, for my guys to test it on different cars, for our testing group that we have inside hyperCLEAN in different climates and different skill sets and what they do for a living. Some are professionals, some are prosumers. We are seeing massive people going, dude, this solves a problem. And these are people with a lot of experience. And I'm not going to be somebody, I think that's what you're trying to say earlier. We don't oversell things. You know, we have it tested up to 2 years. Would I sit here and tell you that's exactly what you're going to get? I don't know. If you look at my video, there's a lot of prep that I kept doing that I didn't get put in the video because the video would have been 2 hours long. So I prep until I feel like the trim is prepped to my scale of it's ready for coating, right? If that means I go over the trim 4 times, I go over the trim 4 times. If it means once, it means once. But I am looking at what's in front of me and making the judgment. And I think you do the same, and many of the people listening to this do the same. And most of the time, guys, one time is going to be enough because most of you guys are coding, most of us are coding newer trims, let's say under 5 years old. Okay. Most of them just new cars. And so, one of the things we want to say is that if you're on a new car, man, a lot of it's going to be go ahead and use trim cleaner, get it all on there. Make sure it's dry, guys. Don't go trim cleaner, grab your bottle. You see a bunch of wet, like wet stuff there. Like just use some common sense. Most of the time, I tell you just go get all your cleaning done, then just come back and coat. Would be probably the most efficient way to do it.
All right. So another question I know some people are going to want to know. Say they've got something else they've put down, right? Do I use the trim cleaner and it's going to strip off the old coating, the same that we talk about, you can spray some stuff on some paint and strip off the old coating. Is that what trim
No,
cleaner is
I
going to be
think
used
what you're
for?
going to
They're going to
do
ask that.
though, because we have some light abrasives in the formula, is you're not going to be able to get things that are like down cured into the deep pores of your trim. But what you will do is you'll take off any superficial layer that's dying or dead or whatever to give you a better surface to apply it to. Right. So it's very important to not speak about trim like we speak about paint, which I appreciate what you just said, because you're right. This is going to be something people say, but you also have to understand that, I mean, dude, you're talking about stuff that's soaked deep down in the trim and it's already cured up. It's not really going to be heavily removed, but if you remove the superficial stuff on the top layer, that allows you to then repenetrate the trim and get you reapplied. So I would say this is a coating that I would feel very comfortable if I had somebody else's trim coating on. I feel like it's failing. I'd do a really thorough clean and I'd go ahead and apply trim and you'd be just fine.
And it's something that I know the next phase out of that question is going to be, right? If I'm ready to put more on, can I just put more on? That's what I do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
No,
the
what I
answer
would
is
say,
yes.
yeah, you can always reapply. It's going to bond with itself. I mean, these types of formulas inside of a manufacturer, if you guys use our trim coating, putting more of our trim coating on is going to be just fine. Okay. What I would say though is, again, let's say you're a year down the road and you want to reapply trim. I'd still go over it with cleaner.
Hmm. Yep.
Go ahead and trim cleaner, put it's going to be pretty quick, right? Like I'm going to just wipe it
Yeah.
down and
Not having to
go,
scrub it
okay,
much.
and then just put it on. Like I am not, since we've had this product, and you and I have been messing with it for well over a year. Since I have this product, I haven't put trim coating at all on a car without trim cleaner.
Yeah. Yeah.
Period.
Of course. Hmm.
Like it's too easy. I will say this, guys. Most of you buy the 16-ounce bottle. Okay, don't buy the gallon, have it sit around for a year because you don't do as many cars as you thought. Most of you, and that's why we made the kit with a 16-ounce bottle and trim coating itself, because I love for all of you to buy gallons of this product. Do we have people that fits? Yeah, we got busy shops that fits. Most of you
Yeah. A
buy the 16
handful of
ounce.
busy shops.
Yeah, yeah,
Even the people are like, that's me. I'm like, yeah, maybe not. Like,
yeah. Just use the
I'm glad you
16.
mentioned the kit because that's perfect, right? The amount that you get, because that's what people, the next is going to be that. Well, how do I get the amount of sprays for the bottle? Yeah, you should. And then they're going to ask, well, how many cars can I coat with the bottle? Hey, you should get about the many cars that you need to clean with the bottle. So you
Yeah,
do the math.
yeah. No,
Like,
here's the truth. Trim cleaner is probably going to outlast your trim coating bottle, right? So cleaner is just going to go further. It's bigger bottle. You're going to find that you don't use as much as you thought in a lot of cases, especially those guys coating new stuff. Uh, but trim coating, and I felt this way with any trim coating I've used. I use a lot of it. So if people want to know what I do, I use a lot. I've always used a lot. I'll continue to use a lot. Many people would argue it's not necessary, but here's the deal, man. My trim comes out looking exactly how I want it to come out looking, which is even, you know, guys, I'm not big on getting this huge sheen. I just like it to look natural, rich, and protected. The easiest way to do that is lay thick layers onto your trim. Watch what it's doing. If you do need to level, level, but be damn sure you need to level before you level, because there's a lot of times I go, let me just let this soak in another 5 minutes. Then I come back and it's completely good. So this is one of those projects. Anyone can do it. Okay. I want to make that clear, but you got to be patient. You got to watch what's going on, and you got to just be like, let me see, don't panic, because if it sits there and it's not going to soak in, most of the time you can just wipe it off, even if it's 5 minutes later.
Oh, well, looks like we should all go to hypercleanstore.com, get that trim cleaner and trim ceramic coating kit. Definitely the way to get started. Get that 16-ounce bottle of cleaner, get everything cleaned up. Prep is key. And then put down the hyperclean trim ceramic coating. Wow. All right. Everybody, we'll see y'all next time.
See you guys.